We are live.
We are live, back to living in Jacksonville. It's Thursday night. It is 8 p.m. It is actually dark out. I was thinking with that hour change, it would still be a little light, but
It
good
is
to see you tonight, Miss Emily. How are you?
doing good. Welcome back from your vacation.
Yes, which was really nice and appropriate for tonight's topic, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah,
We're
it
going to do
inspired tonight's topic even.
No, not really. I think it's one of those things where it's like it felt right because timing. And I'm not like, we always talk about real estate all the time, right? But
Mhm.
it's really, this is also about lifestyle, and real estate's about a lifestyle. So I think it's a cool topic. I mean, do you want to go ahead and let it out the back?
Yeah, so tonight we are talking about, and I had such a hard time titling tonight's video and coming up with a thumbnail for tonight's video. I'm like, how do I like encapture this in just a few words? So if you
Mhm.
were like, what are they talking about? If you're on tonight and you saw the thumb, you're like, what even? I apologize. But tonight is really all about just the I think the advantages that we have when it comes to going on vacations, particularly cruises, as residents of Florida and residents of Northeast Florida, that we don't even realize really that we have the advantage because it's just like the way of life here, if you will. And it was brought to your attention on your cruise when you were talking to some folks and just kind of making friends on the cruise. And people were telling you, oh, I've got a 16-hour drive or an 8-hour flight and then a 2-hour drive. And they were talking about just the immense travel that they had just to get to the cruise. And that is just one of the many advantages that we have being a resident of Florida and Northeast Florida because we've got a port right here in Jacksonville if you want to take a cruise. And there's big news with that. It's really exciting that we'll talk about. But even we've got Port Canaveral in Orlando. We've got so many cruise ports that are within a reasonable driving distance
Yeah.
that just make it, I feel like, vacation that much more enjoyable as far
Yeah.
as getting to it and coming home from it.
Yeah, absolutely. We did go on a cruise for spring break, and to our surprise, well, first off, there was people that missed the boat. So
Wow.
our cruise was a Caribbean cruise out of Fort Lauderdale, and a lot of folks missed the boat because it was a lot of bad weather, and flights got canceled the night before. So folks that were flying in were not able to make the boat and had to go ahead and catch a flight to our first place where the boat stopped, which was Puerto Rico. So a lot of people had to jump on the boat from Puerto Rico because they were affected by weather and the travel. And so I always thought, this was our first cruise as a family. And I
Mhm.
never thought about it because in the past, Florida has been known as a retirement state. And we have a lot of retirees, general population. So that is changing. Now that people can work from home since COVID, it's completely changed. And now Florida is no longer just a retirement state. A lot of families and professionals are moving here for various reasons. And one of the big benefits, besides the weather, is that we are one of the biggest cruise uh, destination locations to take off and travel some really cool places. And so I thought about it. I'm like, man, that is friggin' an advantage that we don't realize we have because we just literally got in our car and drove 4.5, 5 hours and got on a really cool cruise with the family, while other people had to come from all over the place, all over the world, all over
Mhm.
the United States, which is a lot of work getting to just to go on vacation. And I'm like, we just drove here, we got on the ship. These cruises are amazing because they're not just retirees anymore. I mean, I was talking to some people today. The Icon of the Seas by Royal Caribbean is one of the biggest cruise ships in the world, and it
Yeah,
was going out
it's
of Fort
so
Lauderdale.
cool.
Yeah. So I'm like, these are cities on the water with like water slides, resort style. We weren't on that ship, but it's absolutely incredible. And everything is all inclusive. And if you're fortunate enough, you may be able to get quite a deal and not have to worry about making dinner reservations, paying for things. There's all kinds of kids clubs on these cruises. So it's truly incredible. But really quick before we dive right into that right away, and already starting because it's contagious now. It's like we just got off of it, and my wife's already planning next year's cruise.
Yeah.
They it's like a cult. It's a tribe of people, and it's not just retirees. But if anybody's watching, or if you have any comments, or if you decide to jump on, go ahead and share with us where you're watching from, and if you have any questions about tonight's topic or anything else real estate or Florida lifestyle related, please go ahead and throw it in the comments. This is certainly an opportunity to interact. So it doesn't have to be about cruises, but we want to make it fun. So if you have any questions or you're watching from somewhere, throw it in the comments. We would definitely respond. And if you have any questions, certainly try to answer them as best as we can. So
Yeah, definitely.
Are we saving the news about Jacksonville Cruise Line coming here for the end? Should we say that to the end, or should we start with that?
I was planning on starting with it, but honestly, we can do
Let's do it.
whatever.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, and I also will, before, I guess I'll preface it with, I was talking to my husband Travis before the tonight show. He is a big cruiser. Before we even like got together, that was like his family's like main vacation. And I think it is because, like you were saying, it's all included. And so it's like you don't have to worry about anything when you're on that ship. You don't have to, I mean, some of the ships you might make dinner reservations at and stuff like that, but even if you don't, they have food available.
Too
Um,
much.
yeah. And their family did, as a lot of families do, they did carnival cruises.
Mhm.
And I remember when we got together, maybe after we got engaged or at some point in our relationship before we were married, we were like, let's go on a cruise together.
Mhm.
And we went to set up our carnival stuff, and he's like a gold member because of all of these cruises. And here I am with my little like standard like whatever, and he got like free soda and like all of this stuff. It was just funny. We got like
Yeah.
a better check-in time because of it, as far as like
Yeah.
being on board. But anyways, I reached out to him today and was like, this is my plan for our show tonight. What do you think? Am I missing anything? And he actually found this article that I want to just put up and show in case we have anyone watching with us tonight or in the future that they're not local to Florida, and or maybe they would love to go on a cruise, but they're like, I don't even know where to start. He sent me this really cool article, and it's literally like your full guide. This was last updated in February of this year, so it's really recent, and it really breaks everything down. So it talks about the various cruise ports and then what it's like at each one of them. So they start with Miami, which definitely has like the most cruise lines, but really neat article. And I'll throw that in the description and in the comments below. Uh-oh, we lost Greg. It says he's not connected, but we'll keep going, and I'm sure he'll hop on in just a second. Maybe something is going on with his internet. But as far as the news for Jacksonville, so it actually came out in February this year that Jacksonville is getting a second cruise line out of Jacksport, which is where you can cruise out of in Jacksonville. Before it was only Carnival, and I want to say it was only 3-day cruises that you could go on. So growing up in my household, we called that a booze cruise, where you just hop on, you cruise to the Bahamas. Hello again.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I was just explaining to our viewers that prior to this news getting released that Norwegian would be joining us here in Jacksonville, that it was only Carnival. And I'm pretty sure it was only 3-day cruises. And it was just a quick cruise to the Bahamas, which is still a nice little getaway. And I was saying how growing up in my family, we called that a booze cruise, where you hop on, you have a nice little vacation, and it's
Mhm.
nice and quick. But some, and this is not like an opinion or whatever, but I do hear some people not really caring for Carnival. And they have their various reasons. I've done a Carnival cruise. I still had a good time. It was on vacation, but I've also done some other cruises. You and I talked about this ahead of time where I'm like, this was like, if I had to choose one, this would be my one, which we'll get
Mhm.
into later. But Norwegian, I've also cruised on, and we had an amazing time. That was probably the first cruise I went on, because prior to that, I had only cruised Carnival and Royal, and the Royal ships that I had done were kind of older and smaller. I went on the Norwegian Epic. We did a 7 day, it was spring break, just like you. And when we were finished, we were like, that was amazing. Like, we need to do this. And what's so great about it is, depending on who you cruise with and where you cruise from, you could not plan a vacation with the amount of things that cruises have and have like at that price. Like, there's no way you could plan that kind of vacation independently and still get the amazing price that you get on a cruise. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, it was like just what you're talking about eating. I mean,
Ah.
there's food everywhere. I mean, I felt like a pig. I wanted to get off the ship because it was around me. It doesn't mean I had to eat it, but I was like, oh, I'll have a slice of pizza as I go to the pool. Like, no, that's not
Right.
necessary right now. But so, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think that's why it's not just retirees, it's families. Like, if you have
Definitely.
kids and everything, it's definitely can be a lot more economical. But where did you go out of with the Norwegian Epic?
So
Do you remember?
we actually, and this was prior to us living in Jacksonville, we were the people that drove forever. I have the worst memory. And so it's funny because my husband's probably watching in the other room. And I have no idea if I'm remembering this correctly, but I want to say we drove all the way to Miami.
Okay.
I think that's what we did. We drove like pretty far. It wasn't Port Canaveral, which is in
From
Orlando.
Georgia, when you
From
lived in Georgia.
Georgia, I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we drove to Miami. And I mean, it was worth it. We had such a great time.
yeah.
Um, I might be wrong about that. I might be. It felt like it was the longest drive ever, which is basically the
Wow,
point of
Jordan,
the
North
show.
Georgia or there to Miami. That is a long haul for
Yeah.
sure.
And
Yeah,
I could just be like being dramatic, and it might have been closer, but I think it was Miami.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but
So
I'm so excited to get a Norwegian ship here in Jax.
yeah, and that's one of the actual cruises I went with my parents too. And I don't know how Norwegian is now, and I'm not part of the cruise line group. There's groups of people that are very faithful to different ships, and that's what these these cruise lines are for different people. So you're gonna like one cruise line better than the other. So
Mhm.
it was definitely interesting when they said, "Ooh, a cruise line is gonna start coming out of Jacksonville." Certainly, everybody was like, "Okay, what cruise line?" Right?
Mhm.
So I think Norwegian is. I like Norwegian. I had a good cruise with them. So where is this going? Is this just to the Bahamas then?
So let's take a look here. And it looks like it's not even going to start until 2025. So on
Okay.
its way to Jacksonville in 2025. Um, it is a 2,394 passenger ship, and it will
Hmm.
be sailing to the Bahamas and the Eastern Caribbean. And I think that's
Okay.
huge for us because we did not have the Eastern Caribbean options. I mean, you were going straight to, I'm pretty sure, Nassau and Freeport from Jacksonville, and that was it. Like, if you cruised from
Yeah.
Carnival, you would stop at Nassau, stop at Freeport, and you're on your way home. Um,
Yeah.
and it might even have only been one of the two, not even both of them.
Yeah.
So I love that there is an Eastern Caribbean option, and you get different times. This says some of the trips will be 11-day and 12-day voyages, which
Hmm.
is incredible. Like I said, we've only had 3-day options before. So really, really neat. And it says they'll be here. They'll be cruising from November to April every year through 2028. Um,
Okay.
so pretty cool.
For sure. Again, this is going to just add more industry here to Jacksonville. The more industry that we already have. Jacksonville is a big, big port and a very big logistics hub here in the eastern United States,
Mhm.
because we have rail and we have cruise lines and freight. So why not have a cruise coming out of Jacksonville? Jacksonville's really become big on the map now. I think we're probably one of the most underrated cities, completely, because everywhere else has become so expensive in Florida. So naturally, everybody used to cruise out of Miami. Then you started cruising out of Fort Lauderdale. Then, like you said, people starting to really cruise quite a bit from Port Canaveral, and
Mhm.
now you're telling me today on your research that you're like people are cruising out of Tampa, and I'm not a West Coast person, so I didn't know that. And now
Mhm.
we're seeing cruising coming to Jacksonville, so that is super exciting. I think if it works out, the rest will come.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it just looks like it's just going to add so much variability. Like we typically where like now we want as much vacation time as we can get. So it's rare that we'll hop on a 3-day cruise. I am kind of like whatever, I'll do whatever, but Travis is very like he wants a 5-day minimum. He says,
Yeah,
or it's not worth it.
I
And
agree.
to get that, you have to go to at least, I feel like the next closest one to us is Port Canaveral.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's nice that there will be options where, I mean, we can drive. It'll take me maybe 20 minutes to get to the port, which is really neat. And because there's not so many other lines there and it's not the most popular port right now, you don't have as much of a parking issue. You don't have as much of a waiting issue, which is really, really neat. It says that they'll also have here 4 and 5 day cruises to the Bahamas, which is really nice. So you've got those options as well. So I'm really excited about this. I could totally see us hopping on. I think it's called the Gem, Norwegian
Yeah,
Gem.
you're right. Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, a lot of these cruise lines, there's a lot of sites and whatnot, especially if you're local, you can hop on a cruise last minute if you're flexible, since we live
Hmm.
in town and go, you know what, we can get on a really good deal. There's a lot of rooms available. Let's just jump on the gem.
Hmm.
And by the way, I mean, I think we talked about this already. Some of the Bahama Islands and Bimini and all these areas south of Miami are absolutely gorgeous. Some of the
Hmm.
waters and these islands are prettier than the Caribbean. Now, if you don't agree with that, go ahead and put it in the comments. But you've been down to the Bahamas, right? You said you
Hmm.
went. I've been. I mean, I'm like, man, this is gorgeous. Why are we even traveling further to the Caribbean when this is down here? But now we don't even have to get in a car. I mean, what's Port Canaveral? Maybe I was just there. There's a spaceship launch today at
Like
4:30.
maybe 3 hours, maybe.
Yeah, 2.5 hours. Yeah,
Yeah, nothing
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So I mean, that's not bad at all. But like you said, imagine just driving to the port and going, "All right, we're going to the
Yeah,
Caribbean.
we're
Screw it."
out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, so nice. Like,
feed
which
me.
my parents live a little, or my in-laws live a little bit north of that. They're out in McClenny, but just like drop our daughter off and peace
Yeah,
out for a few days. That would be
yeah.
so.
There you go.
So
Or eventually, I mean, like I said, we went with both our kids, and they went to the kids club and they loved it, and they
yeah.
yeah they didn't even want to hang out with us. So, well, yours is a little young for that now, but down the road, once these cruise lines start rolling,
So and that's funny that you mention it, but it's so true. And my family actually was planning a family vacation this year, and my siblings are in high school. They really wanted to do a cruise, and we actually ended up not doing it because we could take Sailor on the cruise right now, but we'd have to pay full price for her. And I'm
oh
like,
wow,
I know. I'm like, that's just silly. Like, she
yeah,
can't eat any of the food. She can't do any of the activities. So
wow,
we're not gonna do that. We ended up booking like a vacation rental in the Panhandle, because that's where my family loves to vacation.
yeah,
But, and I'm excited, but I definitely we will be taking her. We'd love to do a Disney cruise with her one day. So
yeah.
we're not Disney people, but it's like I'm sure she'll love that. But okay, so yeah, kind of how you mentioned, not really even realizing that there was a port in Tampa. That is basically kind of what I was thinking we could do is we could go through tonight and look at these different ports. So
Oh,
we talked about Jacksonville, so that's on here as Jack's Port. In the furthest south, and I'm going to put up a map in a minute, furthest south, we have ports in Key West and then Port Miami. And then north of that, we've got the port of Palm Beach. I'm honestly not even sure where the port Everglades is.
That's Fort Lauderdale. That's Fort
Okay.
Lauderdale. That's where we
Okay.
sailed out of.
Okay.
I don't even know about the Port of Palm Beach, and I lived in South Florida. I didn't realize they had boats going out of Port of Palm Beach either.
Yeah, pretty neat. And then Port Canaveral is Orlando. Very, very popular, I would say, cruising destination just because they have so many lines that go out of there. And it's pretty central as far as in centralized in the state, not having to go all the way to South Florida to take a cruise.
Yeah. Well,
And
not Orlando, but east of Orlando on the
right,
coast.
yeah,
Right.
east
Yeah.
of Orlando. And then and Jacksonville up to this point has only had one option. So I would say Port Canaveral was one of the top destinations to cruise out of if you're not from Florida, just because it's so easy to get in. If you're driving, if you're flying, you can end up pretty much anywhere. So let's take a quick look at the map. So here we are in Jacksonville. So here is Orlando, how I was just saying, and then right to the east of that, here is Port Canaveral.
Right.
So,
And
and this
there's
is where you were today, you said, right?
Yeah,
This
so we
area?
were at the Kennedy Space Center for a field trip with our fourth grade class at Palm Valley Academy. And it was about a 2.5 hour drive.
Yeah,
And
it's really not bad.
not bad at all. And I think what makes it interesting to me is that they do have some really, I guess you can have a lot of ports everywhere, but if you really want to go to the big ships, you have to be at the main port. So Port Canaveral is only 2.5 hour drive, and we were originally supposed to go out of there, I think, on Royal Caribbean. But I mean, they have some big boats going out of there, including the Allure of the Seas. They have some pretty big Disney boats going out of there, which is normal because it's so close to Orlando, like you said.
Mhm.
So they have some really, yeah, look at that. They have some really cool cruise lines there. They have the standard Carnival, which, if you want to talk about booze cruise, in my opinion, from what I understand, Carnival is the booze cruise.
Yeah.
Like, I've been invited on like music rock concert Carnival cruises where everybody's going to go see their favorite bands and party on for like
Mhm.
days, right? Um, Disney Cruise Line we looked into, man, they are expensive.
They're very expensive. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, everything's included, but you are paying for those characters. And I heard they're incredible and the kids
Mhm.
love it.
Mhm.
Man, it's not cheap. We
Yeah.
looked into it and I was like, huh? The other thing I learned also is that Disney cruise lines don't have king size beds. You're sleeping on queens, which is not a big deal. But my wife's like, yeah, I don't know if I want to sleep that close to you.
I think that would be a deal breaker for my husband, I'm not gonna lie. He wants to be as far apart as and like our daughter, she'll be in the bed with us because she's
Yeah,
little right now, and she will push me all over the bed. She takes up so much space, and
yeah,
he will be like, "Stop touching me, move over." And I like get put in the most weird positions because of the two of them. So that
yeah.
might be a deal breaker for him. I'm
Well, I mean, it's two queen beds, I believe. So it's not
okay.
like you have to be all in one bed. But I mean, I still, it's getting
Yeah,
kind of weird, but I still sleep in the same bed with my wife. And it'd be weird sleeping on a separate bed, but
it would be. Yeah.
with our daughters because they're smaller. But if you're gonna pay that kind of money to go on a cruise, you're like, man, you want to have space. And these cabins, the basic cabins in these cruise lines, they're not really big. Come on,
No.
you're cruising. So I find it funny, but the Royal Caribbean definitely has some killer cruises. Norwegian as well. We
Did
saw
you see any of the stuff with their newest ship, the Royal Caribbean? Have you seen any of it?
Yeah, so the funny thing is like on this cruise, so Royal Caribbean and Celebrity, which was what we were, is it Celebrity?
Yeah,
Celebrity?
no, I think you're right.
Yeah, they're the same company.
I did not know that.
Yes. So on our way down to the Caribbean, one of our stops was Puerto Rico, and they did a photo shoot with three ships all sailing next to each other, all their ships.
That's so cool.
So one was the Icon, which is the biggest ship in the world, I believe, 6,000 passengers.
Mhm.
We were in the middle, and oh my God, I don't even remember the name of the boat we were on. My wife looked everything up. Anyway, we were on a celebrity, and then they have another ship, and all three of us were sailing alongside of each other, and they did a photo op with helicopters above us. So I don't even know how I got down this rabbit hole, but though they have, is it two or three different cruise lines? But so there was three of them, and we were all lined up. So they were we could see them, and we looked them up because it was a big deal that night on the
Mhm.
ship.
Mhm.
We had to spend extra time at port in Puerto Rico to align ourselves with those other ships. And they did show us the picture, although we weren't allowed to take pictures of the picture or anything because they wanted to market it.
Right.
Their three most impressive ships. We were on a new celebrity ship as well. And so they took pictures of it, and we were looking up and go, what are these other ships? And man, it's insane.
I
I mean,
wish I was just looking because I have a friend who's a travel agent and she got invited to go on for their first like disembarkation.
maiden voyage. Yeah.
Yeah, she got to go on that first one. And I mean, she was just sharing so much on social media. And so I was just following along the whole time. And it was amazing. This is going to be like the weirdest like comparison ever. But it reminded me of if you've ever seen that movie with Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt. I forget what it is, but they're like floating in space. Oh gosh, wish I could remember what it is.
I
Um,
Okay.
well, and they like they grow a garden and they grow like they turn this that is what it made me think of. Like there's like this whole green space in it. And what was really cool is there was a dog on the ship. And it was like I think the dog was the captain or something.
Okay.
Um, but I loved following along with her stories. It was so neat. And I don't really normally love a super large ship like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it seemed amazing. I'm like, I would enjoy that vacation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like an amusement park on a floating amusement park.
Mhm.
It was ironic I say this because we're in Nocatee and we have a lot of water slides and all that kind of stuff. And this is all that on a boat and lots of activities and restaurants. And so um, it was amazing because, again, as a Florida resident, you think everybody is going to be retirees or whatever. My daughters ran into kids from school on the boat. So
Mhm.
other people were like thinking the same thing. Hell, I don't want to buy plane tickets as well as a cruise. Let's just hop in
Yeah.
our car and go down there and drive. So you're saving as a Floridian, at least it's so expensive to fly now.
It really is.
Have you seen the rates just to fly to like Texas
Even
or
somewhere close, Atlanta, I look at
Atlanta can be
sometimes
expensive.
maybe flying instead of driving to go visit family, and
Four
I'm
hundred
just like,
bucks just for an
yes,
hour play? Yeah,
yes, yeah,
it's insane. So if you have a couple kids like me, or even three or four, it's brutal.
yeah.
By the way, if you want to be a cruiser, don't have a third child. Keep it to four. All
Too
my
funny.
families with three children, I'm sorry. They're like, we have to get a second cabin. Not happening.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna be cruising with families, stay. So if you and Travis are having any more, make sure it's only one more.
And that was I'm one of 6, and so my parents
Oh,
were gonna have to do 4 cabins
whoa.
just for them. Yeah, and then we would have a cabin, so our group would literally be like 5 cabins, like,
Yeah.
it was just
And I think, and that's like something you mentioned, I think that's what makes Airbnb so special. We have a short-term rental, and it's all about families calling us going, how many can we sleep in the house? And we're like, sorry, we
Mhm.
can't accommodate that. Because really that's what family vacations are about. We want to all get together, and this cruise is an option where everybody can get their own cabin. And then you can get together for dinners and everything. You don't have to worry about who's going to pay or
Right.
any of that stuff. And if people don't want to stay and hang out at the pool or whatever, you can go back to your room, you go to the gym, you do whatever you want. So it's such an ideal thing for family reunions and all that kind of stuff. Granted, you don't have to shell out for more than just your cabin. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it so alluring, hence the name Allure. But just not having to worry about anything once you get on, and then being able to, I saw a lot of folks there or retirees maybe that also had their grandkids or their kids and their grandkids, and everybody was sitting around big giant tables having dinner. And that's what it's really about. Sure, it's cool as a couple to go explore new places around the world or whatever, but a vacation, I guess for us, at least my dad and mom, when they were still around, we loved, my brother and I, we still talk about our most best memories with our parents was before they passed away and going on cruises with them. So
Yeah, no, it really, you create such special memories, and even like getting at the ports of call, and that was what we did for like my senior trip. And it's funny because then my sister, who's 6 years younger than me, she wanted to do the same thing. And I went with her and my mom, and we ended up on the same boat that we took on my senior trip. And it was just so neat, just kind of like those memories. And because my sister went with on mine at the time, and she was like young because we're 6 years apart and I was a senior in high school.
yeah.
But it was just it was really, really neat. So I agree.
Yeah, you're lucky. You got to go in your senior year on a cruise. We went to Disney.
Oh man.
Bunch
I
of
mean,
Disney.
some people listen. I have a friend who is like, she is probably like mid 40s, and like her ideal vacation is Disney. Like any Disney. So some people love that.
I know, I know. I'm not cutting down on Disney, but in high school, I would have rather been on a cruise. But anyway,
No,
I
very
digress. I will say that could be a whole nother show. Is the
yeah,
people that are
Disney. We
Disney free. I
could.
mean, I'm literally watching agents in Orlando killing it because everybody's moving to Orlando because one of the attractions is Disney, and I'm like, really? We're
Yep.
moving to Orlando, the most crowded, getting more and more expensive because of an amusement park, which is also brutally expensive. Anyway,
Mhm.
I digress. That's another show for another time. So
Well,
a lot of
next
good
week.
options out of Port Canaveral, though. I really like that.
Yeah. So
Cool.
let's take a look at our next one. We'll go back to the map. You can see us up here. Here's Jacksonville. We talked about Port Canaveral, which is over here. And then I think the next closest, maybe, I don't really know. We would have to actually like put it in the GPS, because it still might be quicker to just keep shooting down 95 to some of these other ports. But if we
Right.
go ahead.
So we were about 6 hours from Fort Lauderdale. Not even. I would say so. It's 4.5 to Boca Raton. Fort Lauderdale is about another 30, 45 minutes. So five. We're talking about 5 hours, 5.5, which is almost equal as if you were driving to Tampa.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe a little bit longer. I think Tampa's like 4.5.
4.5. Okay, so it is a little longer. But I think what we have to think about here, though, is that again, I don't know what cruises out of Tampa, but I imagine those cruises are completely different. So it would be determining really
Absolutely.
on where you want to go, right?
You are 1000% right. So here is the Port of Tampa Bay. Here are their cruises. So
Okay.
actually, Celebrity cruises out of there, which is pretty neat. But we've got Carnival, Celebrity, Royal, Norwegian, and Margaritaville. And if you are watching our show, and you are a teacher and some other professions, but I remember when I was a high school teacher, Margaritaville offers free cruises for teachers. And
Wow.
I know people that went, and they said that they had an amazing time. So pretty neat. I feel like it's also for police officers, but or like law enforcement, but I don't,
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah, really, really neat. Anywhere from 4 to 14 day cruises.
Where do
Um,
they go?
I was just trying to look because they have on here, they have destinations, but when I try and click on it, I don't know
Maybe
if it's something with the site, but nothing was really coming up.
maybe click on one of the cruise lines. Let's see if
Yeah,
what
what we can do
I'm
here.
really curious because I'm like, why don't we go out of Tampa? I would imagine it's like Mexico or something.
So this is their like schedule. So let's see today. So there's a celebrity, I think, yeah, constellation. Let's
Yeah,
see. Departure guide. Let's see if it talks about.
this is exciting. Maybe we'll be going on a cruise again sooner than I thought. Does it say where it goes? Let's see here.
I don't think so. I think this is just all about the terminal. But we can
Okay.
figure this out. Here, let's go to, and I know you can't see my screen yet. Look, now that I'm sharing this or now that I'm searching for this, I'm going to
Okay.
start getting a gazillion ads about wanting to go on a cruise. So
Yeah.
let's say we specifically want to depart from Tampa.
Wow, there you go.
And let's see where it may
Caribbean.
go.
I would be bold to say Royal Caribbean is probably one of the most favored ship lines.
Yeah,
Okay.
I definitely think so. I feel like they appeal to a very like wide variety of people.
Yeah. So what do we got here?
Seeing a lot of Mexico, like you were saying, some Bahamas. This is
Yeah.
just a quick 4-night to Cozumel. And then
Yeah.
this is Coco Cay, Cozumel, Costa Maya,
So it's all Mexico basically because you're doing the Gulf of Mexico.
Belize. Kind of cool.
Belize. Oh, I like that. I would love
Yeah.
to do Belize. All
Yeah,
right.
that's what it looks like is Bahamas, Mexico, and then Belize was thrown in there on one of them. So
Wow.
pretty
So they
neat.
really have a good offering.
Mhm. And I
I
mean,
don't.
look at this. I mean, just look at this. 4
Yeah.
nights. We're talking 4 nights going to Mexico at an
Yeah.
average of $319 a person.
Yeah. Let's go.
That's amazing.
Yeah. For sure. I almost feel like
Like,
I almost feel like it's a little less than going out of other ports in
yeah.
Florida.
I mean,
Wow.
some of these here's 4 oh, that's also Cozumel, but I mean,
Yeah.
this is 7 nights, an average of under $500 a person. You're going to Mexico, Honduras, Belize, back to Mexico, and then
I,
back to
I
Tampa.
like the one below it. Is that Grandeur and Seas? They have Belize and they have the Roatan Islands in the Honduras, which
Mhm.
I also would love to visit as well. So
Yes.
definitely cool options there. All right. So I had no idea that Tampa had so many options for vacations if you want to do the Gulf of Mexico, which is gorgeous. Gulf of Mexico is
Yeah.
beautiful. Beaches are gorgeous on the
I
west
don't
coast.
think I've cruised into the Gulf of Mexico before. I don't think so.
Neither have I. That's why I didn't know anything about it.
Funny.
Tampa's just blown up. I mean, I've heard so many things that Tampa's gotten so crowded and so expensive. I think like the biggest cities that blew up even more so obviously than Jacksonville, and I think we're gonna be next is definitely Orlando and Tampa for sure. We're
Yeah.
just moving north, and it's definitely uh, a place to be for sure.
Yeah. All
Cool.
right. So now let's take a look. So you just went out of Fort Lauderdale, which was Port Everglades. And
Yes.
it looks like there's also one
Two
in Port of
West.
Palm Beach.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So
Must be
I want to look and see because Fort Lauderdale's down here.
yes.
So let's take a look and let's just see Port of Palm Beach.
Okay, Riviera
Um,
Beach. Yeah.
let's see. I didn't pull that one up yet.
Or-
And see kind of what is going on here because it's in this cruise. All right, let's see here. So,
Margaritaville Sea. I didn't even know. I've never heard of a Margaritaville on the sea. I didn't know that was a thing.
mhm. I
That's
think
for
that's the only one that comes out of here.
okay. There you go. That's why I didn't know about
It
it.
looked like a small port, even just on the map just then.
Yes,
Um,
I'm
yeah.
familiar with Riviera Beach, and it is definitely smaller. I had no idea there was even cruise ships going out of there. So, but if you're a parrot head and you want to go on a Margaritaville cruise, this is it right here.
And I would Google viewers, I would Google Margaritaville free cruise. I don't think it was just for teachers and just see what you can find because who knows, you might be in one of the professions that they offer a free cruise for. And hey, I'm not passing up a free cruise.
Yeah.
So
At least one person gets to cruise at discount.
yeah. Okay, so that's Port of Palm Beach. So we're gonna work our way further south to Fort Lauderdale, which is where you were at.
Yes, Port
Um,
Everglades.
yes. So here is Port Everglades.
Massive.
And let's take a look here. Cruise lines.
Yeah.
There were a lot.
Yeah.
I would say Port Everglades and Port of Miami, there were a lot. In Miami, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. But really neat. And some of the more, like, I want to say, like, more exclusive or maybe
Oh, yeah.
even boutique style cruise lines are
Yeah.
out of here, as you can see.
Yeah, I
Um,
think Fort Lauderdale and Miami are like the meccas of cruise lines. I would say that they're probably some of the central offices of some of these big cruise lines are out of those two locations for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there really aren't even very many like mainstream, what I would consider mainstream. I mean, you have celebrity on here, which is well known. You've got Disney, which is well known, and then you've got Royal Caribbean.
Yeah.
But a lot of these other ones, I mean, I've heard of some of them like Holland America and Princess Cruises, but they're not as like they're not the first thing I think that many people think of when they think of going on a cruise.
Yeah.
Um, so that more kind of like, and I could be totally wrong when I'm saying this, but I think of more exclusive, maybe
Yeah.
some more
Like
ships.
Yeah, like Silver Seas, Ritz-Carlton, those are all high-end. I don't know if you want to call them boutique cruise lines or whatnot, but they're definitely high-end cruise lines. And they're not as crowded. There's not maybe as many options, but it's
Right,
definitely more of an exclusive feel. And the
right.
meals are really high-end. And
Exactly what I was
yeah.
thinking.
Yeah,
So
I
you
really can't talk much about it because I've never been on one.
you know, right. You cruise on Celebrity out of here. Where did you guys go? I don't remember.
So we went to Puerto Rico, we went to the British Virgin Islands, Tortola, and then we went to St. Kitts Nevis. If you want to click on that, maybe it will show the boat that I actually went on because I don't even remember it, the name of it. But again, we were supposed to go on Royal
Wait, was
Caribbean.
that Ascent? I feel like I saw Monica's post. Was it Ascent? Was that you? Or no?
Yes, yes, it was. That's
That's
right.
what I thought.
That's
Oh,
what it
and
was.
that's
Yeah.
what popped up as their ad, the Celebrity Ascent. I mean, I saw the photos that Monica posted and it looked amazing.
Yeah, the boat was absolutely beautiful. They have a sister cruise boat that they built for that. So I don't know. The interesting fact: this boat, okay, is cost $1.2 billion to
Wow.
build. 1.2, and it was built in France by a shipbuilder in France, and the actual build time was 2 years. And the way they build cruise ships is they build them in blocks, and this boat had over 40 blocks, and then they put it together. So each
Very
section,
interesting.
yes, yeah, they build it in block because it's so massive. But the engineering and planning of the build of these ships takes 4 or 5 years, and then the actual build time is 2 years, and it costs $1.2 billion to build this
Wow.
vessel. And it is truly impressive. Now, the celebrity cruise lines are not like the Royal Caribbean cruise lines. I would say they're maybe a little bit of a different cruiser. They're more like couples. I don't want to say upscale, just like they don't have water slides, they don't have the
I wouldn't
surfing.
say upscale though. I mean, just based on the other cruises that I've been on, I think it gives a more upscale vibe.
Yeah, maybe. I guess so. Because again, I haven't been in cruising so long. It's been over
Mhm.
10 years when I went with my parents. The game has changed, dude. I mean, these ships are
Yeah.
insanity now. So yeah, I mean, I think some people are like, oh, you have your kids here. This isn't a cruise for kids. Which
Mhm.
I want to let people know if you're watching this or later on watching this, that's not true necessarily. So what I would say is the kids club, our daughters loved it
Mhm.
because we only had maybe 50 kids on board, maybe 75 or maybe 50 in their age category and another 50 in the other category. But there was less than 100 kids for sure. I think it was more like 50 to 75. And that's small. And so the kids
Mhm.
got a lot of individual attention and they had a lot of fun. If you go on a like an icon of the seas, there's 300 children in the kids
Mhm.
club. And so it's like a giant and I haven't experienced it, but I heard that. So I think that it did well. Now, the opposite of that is if you didn't go on the spring break, there would only be a few kids and it would be lonely, right? They would get
Mhm.
all the attention, but it would only be a few kids. My kids had fun because they saw friends from school. There was just enough kids. It was right, perfect. So unless it's a holiday, I maybe wouldn't take them on a celebrity cruise. So we rebooked again for next spring. And so the ship was gorgeous, but we had friends that went on Icon and other cruise ships that had the bigger pools. They had more water slides. They had the surfing thing that you see in commercials. They
Mhm.
loved it. We didn't have any of that, but our kids
Mhm.
were very active playing games. They were playing dodgeball. They were
Mhm.
doing scavenger hunts around the cruise ship, and
That's so cool.
yeah, and the staff was just so attentive to him. Like my girls really loved the people that were with them.
Yeah.
They had a lot of competitions and it was fun. So, and then I would say also that we thought the food was very good for a cruise ship. Uh,
Yeah.
the upscale was very upscale. There was a Michelin chef in one of the restaurants.
Wow.
You had to pay extra for that, but it was top class and the
Worth it.
service was incredible. So yeah, you go on these things and I mean, look at the pictures, dude.
It's insane. Yeah, this looks
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. But
I
one,
really like when you have cruises that have, like, plants and greenery. I don't know why, but it just makes it feel like you're not in the middle of the ocean, and
yeah,
so that I love that touch, just seeing that, it makes it feel, like, homey and
yeah, they had a garden up on there with two
so
pickleball courts and a full-on garden, and it was, yeah, I agree with you. Again, you just don't feel like you're on a boat. It's
yeah,
so weird. Yeah. But
very
I do like getting off the boat. Some people,
yeah,
but it takes if you're flying if you're sailing out of Florida, you're gonna most likely, unless you just go from Miami to the Bahamas. But like for us from Fort Lauderdale to Puerto Rico, we were at sea for 2 3 days, and I
mhm,
was happy to hit land because I was like,
mhm.
let's get off the boat and do something, because you're basically on an island, a floating island.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
so we took a cruise last March, and it was this time last year actually, and it actually ended up being our baby moon. We went with friends, but we had a great time. But it was like really hot one day, and we went to get off the ship, and it was kind of raining, and I was just like, I do not feel like doing this. Like I'm pregnant, I just want to lay down. Like let me stay on the boat.
yeah,
And at one point, there were these things, and they actually, like, covered the pool, and I
yeah,
was like I didn't like it, and I was just like, "Oh, man, I should have, like, stayed off the ship," because it was barely drizzling, but,
yeah.
like, it wasn't as sunny, and you didn't feel I felt like I was in, like, an aquatic center, not like not like actually, like,
Outside,
laying by the pool on vacation.
that's
Um,
hilarious.
it was very like I was like, "What when are they opening this back?" Like, and I know that they had their reasons for doing it. There might have been lightning in the area, who knows? But,
Yeah.
I was just like, "Man, I should have just stayed at the beach," it's barely even raining, but it was interesting. There
There
are
was an
some
indoor pool on this boat and people were in it.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was all glass around it and you could see the sky, but it was indoors. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Alright.
wasn't in it. I walked through it, but I was like,
Yeah.
no thanks. Yeah.
Not for me. Okay, so we looked at it's still on Palm Beach, but we were just looking at Fort Lauderdale. That was the Port Everglades. And then we
Yeah.
have two more to take a look at. We've got Miami. which is probably one of the largest ports that we have here in Florida. And then we also have a port in Key West, which I imagine being fairly small. I haven't really checked it out yet. So let's take a quick look at Miami,
Yeah.
which I have cruised out of, and I love Miami. I will say, so we just did a Virgin cruise recently, and which I could go on and on about it. I absolutely loved it. But they were doing, of course, a ton of construction, and it was kind of miserable trying to just
Construction
find
where?
like at the port.
Ah, okay.
So just trying to get like find parking. We ended up having to park like for like a really long ways away, and we probably walked like, I don't know, it felt like forever,
Yeah.
that we had to like walk with our luggage just to like get to like where the ship was.
Yeah.
Um, so that was not like the funnest experience, but I mean, once we were on the ship, it didn't matter. But
So you went on the like Virgin cruise line? That's only adults only, isn't that right?
adults only, probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. Like, it was so great because okay, so I come from the perspective of, I was a teacher. And so I also only got to cruise on spring break and Thanksgiving break. And just like your daughters saw their friends, I would sometimes see my students. And let me
Oh
tell
wow.
you, the last people I wanted to see on my spring break
Wow.
or my
Yeah.
Thanksgiving break were my
Wow.
students and their families. No offense, I love them, but
Yeah.
that was
You want a break?
yeah. And so that stunk, and like I would try and like plan, like we would sometimes try and choose like smaller cruises or something like that with hopes that we wouldn't like end up with all the families.
Yeah. I'm
So
a big fan of Richard Branson. So how was the cruise? What was
oh
Virgin
my
Cruise?
gosh. Cruise was amazing. The ship was small in a good way. I really liked it. It felt more kind of like intimate. Kind
Yeah.
of how your girls were saying that they loved like getting to know the staff. When we had that experience where you
Yeah.
get to know the staff. And so that was really cool. The ship was brand new, so it was
It was good.
beautiful. Food was amazing. They had so many options. We tried every restaurant, and if I remember correctly, there might have been one, but I am almost positive all of them were included. Like there wasn't an upcharge restaurant. Now you might sit down and there might be certain things on the menu that you could order that were an additional expense, but in general, everything was included. But we went to one place called like the test kitchen, and you didn't know what you were getting when you sat down. It was a test, and they would like bring it out. It was like 7 courses, and everything was really small, and it was really really neat. I
Cool.
absolutely loved it. I would
So
say
where was that?
that one, gosh, where did we even go? I know we went to Mexico. They ended up having to change some of our ports at the last minute because of weather.
Yeah.
But I remember we were in Mexico because we were there on my birthday.
I
And then
love it because you went on this cruise and you're loving the boat and you're like, I don't even know where we went. All I know is it was
well,
amazing.
it's funny because Travis booked it. And so people would ask me, like, where are you going? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where we're leaving from. I don't know when we're going. Like, I have no idea.
That's called vacation, not having to make any
Right.
decisions. Right.
It was so great. And they were, I mean, it was just
Are they
insane.
on there on this site so we can see where they do go? I'm just kind of curious actually, because
Yeah, they definitely should be. Yeah, so Virgin Voyages.
okay.
Um, and let's see. Okay.
So
Yeah.
selfish, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a cruise out of Tampa to do the Mexico Roatan trip, and now I'm thinking about Virgin when we don't take the girls.
Oh,
Um,
it's so worth it. And just like the little things of like comedy. Like the comedy's different when there's no kids in the room. And
right.
it was
Yeah.
just so much
Not a
fun.
family show, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great. So I think they were all, I think at the time they only had one ship. in Miami, but they're getting another one. So I can't remember if this was the ship that we were on, the Valiant Lady. This seems like what we did because we only did 5
You
nights.
know, I don't think you're sharing that
Oh,
screen.
thank you. I'm sorry. Here we
That's okay.
go.
Oh, there we go. Okay, cool.
I think this might have been the one that we did. So
Okay,
we did 5 nights and we went to Cozumel and then we went to the beach club at Bimini, which
sweet.
was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
Um,
Bimini.
and you go to a private club owned by him. And so
Yeah,
while you're there, everything's included. And it was massive and just, it was really, really awesome. And I mean, look at this price. Like it's just, that's hard to beat.
yeah.
Like, it was just amazing. Um,
Cool. I think I might have to check this out. I totally forgot that Virgin has their own cruise ship. That's a good one. The Turks and Caicos one too. We've
mhm.
been Grand Turk. Yeah, Beach Club at Bimini. Sweet. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you
so it
go.
was awesome.
And those are only out of Miami. It shows that was really one of the only few ports in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. How
yeah,
cool was
we
that?
did all
So
of Miami.
you drive down to Miami. You spend one night in Miami. Check
That's
out the
exactly what we did.
Miami hot vibe, and then just enough time in there that you get out, and then jump on a Virgin cruise to Cozumel, Bimini, and no kids, and just totally chillax.
It was awesome. It was so awesome. I would say my only complaint is that the pool was kind of small. And
Yeah.
they really only had, like, 1 pool. And so, like, on one side of the ship, they had 1 pool, and then they had this kind of, like, circular pool that wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm. It was, like, supposed to be, like, room temp, if you will. I don't know, people loved it. And then there were hot tubs everywhere.
Okay.
But that was, like, probably my only complaint is it was difficult to, like, find a spot by the pool. You had to get out there early and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. But I mean, other than that, I had no complaints. It
Yeah.
was really awesome.
Yeah, if you're gonna, I imagine it was your school teacher, so it was a holiday, and those are when the boats are most crowded. I noticed like
Mhm.
you're gonna deal even our shit, you're gonna deal with crowded pools and the beach
Yeah.
thing. That's the only thing that's annoying if you go during the major holidays, right? So it almost makes sense to go when nobody else is going, right? So that you can,
Really, it really does.
yeah, yeah. So you
So
want to plan an offbeat, and you probably get a better rate too because the ship won't be as full. They'll probably give you better rates.
yeah, I think so. I was trying to just pull up okay, is this it? Here we go. I was trying to pull up the Key West because I know we're nearing our hour, and that was our last port, so that's what I was trying to find here, which this looks like it's an article, not the actual port. Key West
Yeah,
Port of Call. Okay, so it looks like Key West includes Carnival, Norwegian, and Holland America. And also Royal Caribbean runs limited cruises to Key West.
okay.
So more than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So again, another opportunity where if you want to go and hang out in Key West for a night or two and then hop on the boat, that's the beauty of living in Florida because Key West is beautiful. It's a great place to visit. That was when we lived in South Florida, that was the closest. Instead of driving all the way north, we're like, let's go south to all the
Yeah.
Keys and then end up in Key West. And now you can jump on a cruise ship from there as well. So
It's really,
great
really
opportunities if you love the ocean and being at sea. Man, you have a ton of options here. I mean, where else can you do all that, you know?
yeah. And then there was one more thing that I wanted to share before we end our live this evening.
You're like,
Um,
wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. No, I mean, this is so cool. I was hoping that I could find photos, but I brought this up to you and you were like, what? I had never even heard of this. So, one thing that's really, really neat, let's say that you want to go on vacation, but you don't really want to do the whole cruise thing. You don't want to do 3 days, like you're just wanting to do something quick, or maybe you hate boats, you have a fear, whatever, which I guess you'd still be on a boat for this. But this is something that's newer. We now have a high speed ferry out of Fort Lauderdale that will take you to Bimini. And so, really, really cool. It takes on average 2 hours. And
Wow.
you hop on this high speed ferry and it takes you to Bimini, and you can book then something while you're there. I'm trying to find, let's see, let me see if I can share this
That
instead. I
is
wanted to
so
find more
cool.
images.
I
Very,
love
very neat.
beautiful. Bimini's so gorgeous.
Mhm.
That's such a great option to be able to just 2 hours. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. And I mean, there's lots of websites as I've been looking at it.
Yeah.
But you can book, you can look at the ferry, their schedule and prices, you can book your hotel. But that's probably one of my favorite islands that I've been to.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is crazy. Hilton Bimini packages with ferry from $250.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said, when you go matters. That was from last year anyways. So
Yeah.
but just really, really, I'm like, that's so cool that that option even exists. So
Yeah. I think we just don't realize how fortunate we are here in Florida of all the opportunities and options we do have, and people don't take advantage of it. And honestly, we weren't big cruise people, and I was kind of like the only reason I did it is because my parents were elderly and they couldn't really do a lot. It was just something
mhm.
simple where they could meet us for breakfast, lunch, and just sit on the pool or read a book by the ocean. But now it's like they're becoming these massive floating cities where there's so much to do. And if you can skip the airfare and all that and just drive to one of your favorite ports here in Florida, man, look at how much I didn't even, I had no idea about Tampa. I mean,
Mhm.
I didn't know about Margaritaville and the Seas. I mean, there's just so many options. So if you're bored, pull up one of these sites, even if you want to do it last minute, and see if
I
there's
know
a
we just planned people's vacation for them.
go. I mean, that's the benefit of living in Florida. It's not just that we have, no income tax. We have great weather, but we have a lot you can do here if you
Mhm.
love cruising. People come from all over the world. We so many people flying in from Canada on our cruise. But coming from all over, and they're like, "Oh, where did you come from?" We like, "Yeah, we drove 5 hours from
Yeah.
Jacksonville." Oh, you suck. We've taken 2 days to get here, connection
Mhm.
flights, blah, blah, blah. So super blessed. This was a total one off, but I like it. It was refreshing. It's different. Another reason to move to Florida and Jacksonville. I'm definitely like, I think I'm going to do a video on my first cruise out of Jacksonville on the Norwegian Gem. What?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
would be so cool, like a little vlog recap or something.
Yeah, 100%.
Very
Well,
cool.
that's it. We wrapped an hour again tonight. That was easy. It was fun. I didn't realize you were such a big cruise person. And
Love
Travis,
this. Yeah.
wow. I mean, you guys have done a lot of different cruises. That is so cool. And now it's contagious, I think.
It is. When we got off the Virgin ship, like when we were leaving, we booked our next one with them too. Just how you did. You're on there and it's like it's hard to say no.
Yeah. Well, it's not completely booked yet, but we're
Yeah.
nailing one down. Thank God. I was like, no,
Mhm.
hold off.
They
So
were
yeah,
like, they made us an offer we couldn't resist. We were like,
yeah.
where do we sign?
People booking you right there on the ship, giving you
Mhm.
on dollar amounts to spend on there. But anyway, for everybody's watching or watching the recording of this or whatnot, if you're thinking about moving the area or you live in the area, I'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. My name is Greg Tulio, and certainly there are lots of information of lots of opportunities in great areas to live here in Jacksonville as we continue to grow. Again, I truly believe we're one of the most underrated cities here in Florida, and it's almost so difficult and so expensive to move to Florida, but there's still some opportunities here, and this is a great place. So if I can be that resource for you, whatnot, my information will be in the description and pinned to the comments. And text, call, email. It's never too early to start or just to inquire, have those conversations. And I'd be glad to help you. And we'll see you on the next video.
See you next week. Have a good one, everyone.
All right.